If you plan on traditionally publishing your fiction novel, you likely need a synopsis to go along with your query letter and sample pages. So today I want to talk about summarizing your story, how to write a captivating synopsis. Your synopsis is not the same thing as a pitch. That goes in your query letter and is a teaser. Your synopsis is a summary that agents and editors are going to use to decide if your story is right for them. This is Ignited Ink Writing, a channel dedicated to helping authors like you transform your writing so it lingers with your readers. Because writing that lingers gets remembered and recommended to others. I'm Caitlin Burvey, editor and writer. Let's start with what is a synopsis? A synopsis is a summary of your book. That means you do need to reveal the ending in your synopsis. If you're thinking, I don't want to say who the main villain is, or what happens because I don't want to ruin the book for that agent or publisher, you do not understand the purpose of a synopsis and you're doing it wrong. When an agent or publisher asks for a synopsis, what they want to know is if you can write a good ending as well as a good beginning. Lots of authors are really good at beginnings because they write them a lot. They work on them a lot. Fewer authors are good at endings because fewer people get to the end as often and work as hard on the endings. The same goes for the middle. Your synopsis is showing an agent or editor, look, I have a plot, I have character development and arcs, and I have an ending. So you do need to say what happens. In the past, authors were given 10 pages for their synopsis. That was awesome. Now you get 1 to 5. That's because agents and editors are getting way more queries than they used to. They just don't have as much time to spend on each synopsis. So you're going to have to work a little harder to get your whole book in there. Now that you know what a synopsis is, let's cover how to format a synopsis. Standard synopsis format is very similar to standard manuscript format, which you should use for your sample pages. I have a video on that as well. Here's how you should format your synopsis. It should have 1-inch margins, be double-spaced. You should indent your paragraphs, number your pages, and use 12-point Times New Roman or another easy-to-read font. You should include the title of your book, as well as the word synopsis. The title should be in all caps, and synopsis should be capitalized and then lowercase. Also include your name. The one exception to this is if you're writing a single-page synopsis. In that case, you often are asked to use single spacing, but everything else is the same. Whether or not you need to do that should be on the agent or publisher's website. So that's what a synopsis looks like. There are 2 other important components to a synopsis that you should know about. The first is every synopsis needs to be written in third person present tense. I don't care what tense or point of view you used in your book, that's what you need to write your synopsis in. I'm not really sure why, but I do know that when you don't do that, it marks you as an amateur in the industry, or it's saying to an agent or editor that you don't care enough to learn the rules, so why should they care enough to consider your piece? So again, third person, present tense. The second thing you need to remember for your synopsis is each time you mention a new character, you need to put their name in all caps, just like you put your title in all caps. This helps that name stand out, so the agent or editor has an easier time remembering it or coming back to it. Some agents or editors might ask for a slightly different format. They should mention that on their website under their submission guidelines, so be sure to check those before submitting. Now that you know how to format your synopsis, let's cover synopsis best practices. Like your pitch, your synopsis needs to cover your main character's motivations, conflicts, and stakes. What that means is you need to say whether or not the stakes were won or lost, what the result of that main conflict was, whether or not your characters got what they wanted. Also, you're gonna have to only focus on the main plot because you don't have enough pages to focus on all of those lovely subplots that you've included. So hone in on your main character's main struggle. and focus on that in your synopsis. Also, you want to limit the number of characters you mention. You should only list 3 to 5 characters. Any more than that, and you're probably starting to include subplots in your synopsis. Most agents and publishers are going to ask for a writing sample, usually the first 5 pages to as many as the first 30. That means you don't need to spend a lot of time on your beginning in your synopsis, because they can read that there. Instead, keep that opening paragraph short and sweet, and save those words for the later parts of your book. Because your synopsis is a summary, you shouldn't have a bunch of dialogue or full scenes. This rarely works because it doesn't give you enough space to summarize your whole book. Often, if I see dialogue in a synopsis and it's working, it's 1 to 2 lines, not a full conversation. But just because your synopsis is a summary doesn't mean it should be boring. Yes, this is kind of like a report because you're listing things, but you are a writer. This is still a writing sample, so use all of those wonderful writing techniques you mastered while writing your book. In a synopsis, you should also include some of your setting. Agents and publishers want to know where your story is taking place. This could be the time period, a specific city, or a planet that you have invented. Don't mention other books or stories in your synopsis. This is summarizing the story you are pitching. It's not summarizing the series. It's not summarizing any spin-off ideas you might have. I've seen people do that. It does not work. And remember, these are best practices, so they're tips and guidelines. They're not do or die must-includes for your synopsis. Not every story is going to need all of these, and the order in which you reveal this information is completely up to you. Next, I want to share an editor's advice on writing your synopsis. Synopses are difficult. You've spent a long time crafting a full book, and now someone is asking you to summarize that whole book in 1 to 5 pages. That means you're definitely now going to have to kill those darlings. But it'll be worth it when you land an agent or publisher. So don't give up when crafting your synopsis. And if you're one of those rare people who synopses come naturally, don't take that for granted. That is a talent and a skill set that not a lot of authors have. When crafting your synopsis, like when you're putting together the rest of your submission packet, I recommend having someone else read it before you send it off to an agent or publisher. I suggest having 2 different types of readers. The first is someone who doesn't know anything about your story. They're going to tell you if your synopsis makes sense and if it's interesting and is going to compel that agent or editor to want to know more. The second type of person is someone who has read your book or does know a lot about it. They're going to let you know if you definitely summarized the main plot, if you included all of your main characters, and if you revealed whether or not the stakes were won or lost. They know your story well enough to know what the main points are and will help you pull that out for your synopsis. After you've received their feedback, incorporate it accordingly, and then you're ready to send off to agents and publishers. So how do you craft your synopsis? Share your process in the comments below. And for more videos on summary and other aspects of writing, subscribe to Ignited Ink Writing, a channel dedicated to helping authors like you transform your writing so it lingers with your readers. Because writing that lingers gets remembered and recommended to others. I'm Caitlin Burvey, editor and writer. To find out more about me, go to www.ignitedinkwriting.com. There you will also find a submission checklist that will make sure you've included all the components you need in your submission packet. And now it's your turn to craft a synopsis that is clear, compelling, and polished to get an agent or editor to say yes to your story and ignite your ink.